Primary research paper presentation by Briggs, Caroline, Grace, and Chelsea. The research paper we are going to be discussing is called Mood Influences the Concordance of Subjective and Objective Measures of Sleep Duration in Older Adults. The background information on this paper is that sleep is important for an individual's overall health. This is because sleep duration can have an effect on the body's cognitive functions. Sleep can also have an effect on medical conditions such as obesity, diabetes, and hypertension. The question this paper asks is, what, if any, is the discrepancy between the observed objective and subjective measures of sleep duration in older adults, and how does mood play a role in this discrepancy? The researchers' hypothesis is that a subjective feeling of insufficient sleep duration may be due to a negative mood when estimating sleep. It is important to ask this question since how much a person actually slept can vary greatly from the amount that they believe that they had slept.
For this experiment, researchers were drawn from a broader research program started in 2012 called AM-Image-2 Research Program, and this included 200 total participants. However, only 45 participants were actually included in this final experiment, and this is because there was a certain set of criteria that each participant must have met in order to be included. So this included making sure that each participant was not using sleep medications, had no sleep complaints that led to a diagnosis of sleep disorders such as insomnia, and had no depression symptoms. So there were 45 total participants who were included based on this criteria. Researchers used a sleep assessment to objectively measure the duration of sleep for each participant. In order to do so, participants were studied for 7 days and 8 nights, and sleep was recorded by a smartwatch, and each smartwatch had a sensor placed on the non-dominant wrist. Participants were asked to press a button in the center of the watch when they started trying to go to sleep and when they woke up each day. Each participant was also encouraged to complete a sleep diary, which indicated their bedtime and their wake time. And using this information, researchers calculated the total sleep time of each participant by subtracting their wake time from their bedtime to get the number of hours they slept, and their sleep efficiency, which is the time they were actually asleep divided by the time that they spent in bed. Researchers also used a sleep assessment to subjectively measure each participant's sleep duration. To do so, they implemented an ecological momentary assessment, or an EMA. And this is just a fancy word for a way in which researchers collected real-time data from participants in their natural environment through smartphones. So this would consist of a participant getting a notification each day to fill out a quick 5-minute questionnaire in which they could answer questions like rating their mood from a scale of 1 to 10, or talking about some of the social interactions they've had that day. Participants provided responses 5 times a day over a 1-week period, and these questionnaires and notifications were adapted to the individual's typical daily schedule. So they wanted to make sure that this wouldn't interfere with any of the participants' daily scheduled times. And this was really just to test how does the length of sleep affect a person's quality of life, affect their social interactions throughout the day. Researchers also used self-reported total sleep time to subjectively measure the sleep of the participant. So this consisted of the participant filling out a scale of 0 hours to 10 hours, in which they put how many hours of sleep they got that night total. And using this information, researchers performed statistical analysis to compare the subjective measurements of the subjective sleep assessment, which would be the self-reported total sleep time, versus the objective sleep assessment, which consisted of the total sleep time calculated through the watch and the sleep efficiency calculations.
The results from the study that we read about show that there is a noticeable difference between how long older adults thought they were sleeping, which would be subjective, and how long devices recorded that they were actually sleeping, which would be objective. And the difference in sleep estimations was shown to be linked to how a person felt when they woke up. For example, the people who woke up in a bad mood would often underestimate how long they slept. And it was shown that age, gender, sleep quality, and memory performance did not really play a role in the difference in the estimates of these people of how long they slept. It also showed that over half of the people participating in the study were off by an hour when predicting how long they slept, with the people who did predict correctly being happier when they woke up. So basically, the people who woke up in a bad mood were off more than those who woke up in a good mood when they predicted the amount of sleep they had. And then the interpretation of this study was that it discovered how we feel when we wake up can affect how well we can estimate our duration of sleep. And the results were interpreted to say that mood is very important to how older adults think about how long they slept, and that this can have an impact on future studies about sleep. They also interpreted that incorrectly estimated sleep is not related to being able to remember the number of hours of sleep. So like a person's memory isn't what's affecting it, it's just how they feel when they wake up. And we agree with this interpretation based off of the results that were given.
In conclusion, this study found evidence that a subjective feeling of insufficient sleep duration may be due to a negative mood at the moment of sleep estimation. Perceived sleep quality is very important in mood the following day and different from what is measured objectively through actigraphy and ecological momentary assessment. This research showed a link between subjective sleep and mood, but none evaluated the association of objective sleep duration and quality versus mood. Mood states were not influenced by sleep quality or quantity objectively. However, using actigraphy objectively does not give insights into sleep architecture. This brings me to future studies and uses that could be done to research this complex phenomenon of sleep. Self-reported sleep duration may measure an important aspect of health that cannot be captured by objective techniques. Therefore, in the future, testing a larger sample size of elderly people would be beneficial to this pilot study to get better averages amongst people and provide smaller margins of errors. Also, more research of the discrepancies between subjective and objective sleep evaluations through a longer time or even lifespan would allow for better comprehension. Testing participants for a lifespan of sleep would allow them to see in which stages of life people are more inclined to wake up in a better mood. More epidemiological studies to test subjective sleep quality to risk factors for morbidity and mortality are needed to try to find a better way to treat or even cure diseases such as insomnia, mental disorders, obesity, and premature death. Considering that people who woke up in a bad mood often underestimated how much they slept, future studies can center their research around how to adequately wake up in a better mood every day. Some examples of this could be waking up to more peaceful alarms or medicating to be happier at the time of awakening. Here is our work cited from the study of mood influences the concordance of subjective and objective measures of sleep duration in older adults, done primarily by Marianne Baylett and Charlotte Kosen. Thank you for watching our presentation.